And we're live. Welcome back to the LOOPCast. Today I'm joined by Josh and Tinfoil Tom McCluskey. Thank you for joining the show today. Erica is on vacation. You are more than a suitable replacement. Thanks for taking the time today.
Thanks for having me on.
What have you been up to lately? What's the news on the Hill?
Well, Congress is out of session, so that usually means everybody's safe. So mostly just trying to see how badly they're going to screw things up when they get back, and if they support the current presidential candidate or are looking to, well, excuse the language, screw them over.
Tom, do you think you have enough copies of For God, Country, and Sanity, or do you need a few more?
I could probably use a few more. I'd like to have a different book for each chapter.
Nice.
That's just the kind of guy I am.
Well, we recommend that for everyone, right?
That's like
exactly.
That's like the rich man who wears a new pair of socks every day. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for joining, and also thank you everyone here in the live chat. We got a lot of different people are shouting out their locations. We got someone from Ohio, Louisiana, Arizona, all over the place. Make sure you guys vote in Arizona, please. But yeah, thank you guys for joining
Ohio
us.
too.
Yeah, Ohio too, no doubt.
I mean, every state, obviously, but some states matter more than others.
Yeah, but thank you guys.
Some states vote more than once.
But thank you guys for joining the live chat. We do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you will find us here. More fun in the chat, but thank you to everyone listening on the podcast as well. Reviews, leave a like on this episode, helps a ton. We got a lot to get into today. So how I have this organized in my head is we kind of have Kamala world and we got Trump world. Okay. I'm going to get into breakdancing a little bit later, which I'm very excited to do. I'm just got to get this out of the way so I can get into B-boys. But Kamala Harris tests out a new strategy, let's say, as she was campaigning specifically in Arizona and Nevada. And that strategy is basically flip-flop on the major hammer issue, everything. But I'd say the biggest hammer issue, immigration, right? I mean, she came out basically saying, we're going to be tough on immigration. We know the border's bad. I'm going to fix it. We're going to shut down all the illegal immigration going here. And it's just really, it seems like a test.
Tough on that. We're going to be tough on inflation. And then the coup, the absolute.
Oh, yeah.
The tip of the, I mean, just the cherry on top of the ice cream. She's like, oh, yeah, and no taxes on tips, which she announces in Nevada, where so much of the, you have a massive service industry with everything that's going on with the casinos and everything like that. Absolute total pandering. I mean,
I'm surprised she didn't have the press
people say not only
at
they steal
Mar-a-Lago.
elections, they steal our punchlines. I mean, this is crazy.
Well, the tip thing was just a straight steal, right? Like Trump came out with that. That was big news. Wow, Trump suggesting we're not going to do tips. And Kamala Harris just shamelessly, I mean, hey, we're not going to do tips. And seems like a popular message, though, I'd say to service workers.
McCluskey, hear me out on this one. Is this like the first, I mean, the Trump's, I thought it was an ingenious idea, whether you support the policy or not, it's an ingenious idea to actually try to target a population of people, the people working the service industry, waiters, waitresses, that kind of stuff, and say, hey, you vote for me, I'm going to put no taxes on tips. Like on the Republican side of things, there's almost never any attention trying to focus on like, here's a way I can use free market or, anti-government policy to try to win over people. We saw that with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis with school choice, in his gubernatorial campaign, and that was effective. But like at a national level, Republicans are almost resistant to that. It's like, oh, we got to talk about general principles only. I mean,
targeted tax cuts are a thing of both parties and have been for a while. You can everything from fishing boxes to tackle boxes to Christmas trees. They've targeted, but none so blatantly or so brilliantly, almost election-wise, of going after the workers that normally you wouldn't think would vote Republican.
Would you say in general that's a good idea? I'm just curious on a human level. No, not taxing tips.
Well, my dog definitely disagrees, very, very adamantly.
Why don't you mute up for a second? I mean, here's the thing.
It's a live show.
Like, I think this is a great policy. I mean, the thing is sometimes you get Republican lawmakers will come up with clever ideas and they'll announce a press conference and they'll do it on Capitol Hill or whatever. And, they get a few fun lines and they get on talk radio or, whatever. But when it's rare that it actually makes it to the campaign season. So I applaud President Trump for doing this. I think that, the no tax on tip. And of course, obviously it's effective because Kamala Harris stole it.
Yeah.
She just stole the tip money right off the table, and she's running with the idea herself. So it's a good idea. But this is why you got to fight back. And so, like, Republicans for many years since the 1990s have been talking about the child tax credit. And they're the ones that came up with the idea, made it $500, then they made it $1,000, then they finally made it $2,000 with the Trump tax cut back in 2017. And I was very happy to see that J.D. Vance, the vice presidential pick on the Republican side, he made a lot of interviews this week. In fact, he did more adversarial interviews with mainstream media this weekend than pretty much Kamala Harris has done all year. In fact, that's true.
Well, and he keeps saying it too.
And during that interview, he went in and then J.D. Vance says, I want to expand it. I want to expand the child tax credit to $5,000. Now, if he didn't, that was his idea. He wasn't claiming it was Trump's, but that would be fantastic. That would be a huge help to a lot of families that are fighting against inflation right now.
But in a larger picture, I do support everything that the Trump campaign is trying to do right now, and apparently also the Harris campaign appears too, when it comes to taxes. However, generally, I do think these targeted tax cuts just make an already complicated tax system more complicated. I would rather there was some general tax, be it sales tax, be it just a general, some sort of flat tax. We're not getting that anytime soon. But
let me push back a little on that, Tom. I mean, if you just don't have to declare your, tips as income, it's actually less complicated, right?
But you have to know, and it's not just these type of tax cuts, and we're going into some of the other tax cuts as well. Because it's not, you also have to, even the child tax cut can get complicated, and all the others. So I'm saying in a perfect world, people would have more money in their pockets, and government wouldn't make you have to hire accountants to figure out how you get that money into your pockets.
I think that's true. I mean, in large part, the 2017 Trump tax cut not only lowered taxes for everyone, and that's a lie the media never tells you about, it lowered taxes for everyone, and then especially families with kids. But it didn't flatten it, but it did simplify the tax code, and it raised the general deduction in such a way that most people are like, I'm not going to itemize. I'll just go forward with this generous deduction. So in many ways, that was an advantage. So, and then of course, COVID hits, and they throw this and that in there. But overall, it was an improvement. So improvements can be done.
Right.
Well, interesting to note too, the Biden-Harris administration started a pilot program with the IRS to have companies that volunteer to report their tips. So that is currently on track to actually be a requirement for all businesses to more closely regulate the IRS to regulate tips. So it's almost like one group here is kind of lying or maybe found something.
The Biden-Harris administration's doing this?
And then it's funny.
You're stepping on Josh's line here.
I'm happy to step on Josh's line. And then another interesting point you brought up with Trump kind of flattening taxes. The Biden administration is going to let that expire in 2025, correct?
That is correct. She's, Kamala Harris has come out against that many, many, many times. She's tried to say, well, I still favor a child tax credit. And that may be true because, they did push one forward. But, let's not forget the Trump tax cuts. They cut taxes on the working poor, lower middle class, and middle class voters. All of them got a tax cut, and pretty significant one, by the way. So, it's, they always say, oh, I don't want to give tax credits or tax cuts to the rich. I just want to help out the working poor. That's what the Democrats say. And they're total liars. They're the ones. It's amazing. The political parties change over time, and everyone's like, well, is Donald Trump really is the Republican Party and Donald Trump really the party of the working class? Well, let's look. There's this idea that if you live in a high tax state, you should be able to deduct your state and local taxes, SALT. Okay. So you should be able to get a SALT deduction. Oh, I live in California. I live in New York or something like that. I pay so high in taxes. I should be able to use that as a break against my federal taxes. And for years and years and years, that happened. Well, that just allowed states like Illinois and New York and New Jersey and California to raise their taxes higher because it was they wouldn't feel the pinch as much because they could just declare it. It was Republicans that said that doesn't make sense. That's not okay. And they reduced it significantly, the SALT tax credit. But it's Democrats from blue states like Nancy Pelosi who have said, no, we need these tax cuts for the rich.
Speaking of Nancy Pelosi, in my opinion, the most effective politician of a generation, I'd have to say. I don't think anyone in this program would disagree with me.
Absolutely, that's true.
Not that we like her. So I have a clip to show you guys. My jaw almost dropped at this. We forget that President Biden is still the president right now. But yeah, he's still the president right now. And it seems like we're getting some more detail as to what actually happened behind the scenes, Pelosi being the first to say. So
that clip that you're talking about, the clip, well, her, okay.
Crazy.
There's the Biden clip too. That was interesting.
Yeah,
he's been
I got both.
Really a fantastic president of the United States. So I really wanted him to make a decision of a better campaign, because they were not facing the fact of what was happening. Just a little background.
It was like
I've never been that impressed with his political operation.
Biden's operation.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I just haven't been. They won the White House. Bravo. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But so my concern was, this ain't happening. And we have to
This
make
is the
a
guy she
decision
wanted to put on Mount
for us-
Rushmore?
This to happen. The president has to make the decision for that to happen. Let me just say, I won't say necessarily I knew what I was doing at that time. I knew what I was doing in the whole thing, not just that ship.
And what was that?
That Donald Trump would never set foot in the White House again.
Okay, so here's the funny thing is we have about as close as you can get to a parliamentary system in the Democratic Party, because if people want to remember, Joe Biden got like fifth place in New Hampshire primary, and he got like 7% of the vote. Like everyone got more than him. Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, and then Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders got first place, and Democrats were absolutely petrified by the idea that what if Bernie Sanders becomes the nominee? He's not going to win, and he'll take down the House and the Senate. So Nancy Pelosi and James Clyburn, the black Democrat from South Carolina, hatched a plan to drag, Biden across the finish line and go into South Carolina and tell the voters in the South Carolina primary in 2020, Barack Obama trusted him. Now it's our turn to trust him. And black Democrats followed the lead with James Clyburn, and they put him in, and he became the nominee. And so Pelosi's like, I installed you. I put you there. I can take you out. And that's basically what happened. And she said, you're out, you're done. And I'm putting someone else. And I don't know, they must have had a blackmail file on him. It's just stunning to think, because, it was a guaranteed loss if he was in there at this point. I mean, he was always trailing, Biden was always trailing Trump since September of last year. So it's a good 9 months. But it was, kind of close, and then the debate happens and it blows up, and the gap just widened.
Yeah.
And even tying in like the first thing that we were discussing about Kamala Harris now cares about the border and things like that. All of this, and Nancy Pelosi is one of the architects. This will go down in history as the gaslighting, I think, election, where the media and the Democratic Party are trying to tell you, like, don't pay attention to what's happening behind the curtain. No. It's the Republicans who want to steal the election, not us. Oh, no. It's the Republicans who are allowing all this problem at the border, not us. It's the Republicans who want to tax your children. It's the Republicans who everything is the Republicans' fault, even though they've controlled most of the levels of power, and about the only level of power, the presidency, of the last 4 years.
Well, okay. So to that credit, like the Democratic Party has the media as a willing participant in that gaslighting. Okay. Right. Obviously. And we've seen this 3 or 4 weeks of the media just giving a total sunshine, everything rainbows, and happy for Kamala Harris. She's gotten like the hero's welcome, like a general coming back from war. It's like a ticker tape parade for her. There's that element of it, of course. But you're right that the Democrats are saying, no, we're the ones for border security. And who's there to help them out? Who's giving them an assist on this? But that idiot senator from Oklahoma, James Lankford. I just want to put out on the record, by the way, this idiot, this guy, he's an absolute fool. He's this.
Josh, tell me how you really feel. about this guy.
Okay, here's the deal. He's always been for amnesty, and I just want to point out for the record that Catholic Vote 12 years ago try to nip this guy in the bud. We supported Kevin Calvi in the Oklahoma 5th District race, and our guy got first place. But of course, it's the South. They got these dumb runoff elections, and so James Lankford wins the runoff, and that just still torques me to this day because he's one of these. He is like a David French Republican who, talks about the evangelical faith only to beat up other people. He's not quite that bad, but he's using it on the immigration stuff, and he's totally for immigration amnesty. And then, of course, Kamala Harris is like, oh, well, we wanted border security. We had a deal with Republicans and all this stuff. And it was a crummy deal. And Mitch McConnell liked it because it got funding for Ukraine. And James Lankford was the patsy put forward on favor of this. And then they just did the media interview with Lankford. He's like, oh, actually, the Kamala Harris is right. I was ready to do this. Let's go.
Josh,
what
if I could,
an absolute idiot.
Josh, if I
and what,
let me clarify.
And I do have a good relation.
Guys. But Tom, before you say that you're buddies with the guy, and he's been good on pro-life stuff.
Oh, I'm not buddies with him. Okay. I know him. I work with him.
Okay, wait. If I could clarify, what Josh is frustrated about is the original border bill that was a total Trojan horse, the one that Kamala Harris is now using as a cudgel against the Trump campaign for supposedly not supporting border security. Biden throwing up his hand saying, I can't do anything about the border, even though he signed an executive order like 2 weeks after. A bill that was a bad bill. It allowed like 1 million people extra into the country every year. And James Lankford was the biggest Republican proponent of this bill. That is what Josh is talking about here.
Absolutely. Right. What Lankford should have done in the spring
we gotta let Tom talk.
That this was going to be used against us in the fall, and he should have withdrawn his support for the bill and said that, we need a stronger bill.
I think they knew because behind the scenes it was Mitch McConnell pulling a lot of the strings. And with James Lankford, I do like the guy, except I disagreed with him a few years ago. He was pushing a Senate Republican healthcare bill that would have had Republicans paying for abortions. More recently, he did nothing to help out Tommy Tuberville when he was fighting to stop military travel abortions. But in this case, and why it's back in the news again is because all the GOP consultants are like, okay, when we're talking about the border, let's talk about how bad Biden is. And James Lankford said, hold my ginger ale, because the man does not drink, and does an interview with the New York Times. And you don't walk away from the New York Times as a true conservative with a favorable interview. Brian Brown, I think, did once.
David French does it all the time.
I questioned him for about 10 years after that.
It's time for a good person from the state of Oklahoma to rise up and primary this guy. He's a total dud.
There's a quote from Senator Everett Dirksen, who was from Illinois, back when Illinois actually elected Republicans. We have two parties here, and only two. One is the evil party, and the other is the stupid party. Occasionally, the two parties get together to do something that's both evil and stupid. That's called bipartisanship. And that is what the immigration bill was. It was not an immigration bill. It was an open border bill.
Right.
I don't care what James Lankford says. And
we had a bill, HR 2. That's the bill we should be championing.
Exactly. And the media is, if I may, lying when they say that Donald Trump killed the bill. It was House Republicans and conservative senators who killed the bill because they understood it for the piece of crap that it is.
Yeah.
So that James Lankford is doubling down. I really do not understand it. And I guess the bottom line is don't trust redheads.
Yeah. So interesting. So I have a few points on Kamala's pivot that I think kind of bring this into picture as well. So one, she's been highlighting her record as the attorney general of a border state, quote unquote, California, in combating transnational crime, promising to fight for strong border security and attacking Trump for killing the bipartisan border legislation earlier this year. This is the bill we're talking about, the open borders bill. And then 4, promising to sign a similar bill if she became president. So again, I mean, she'd be signing what she pretty much already supports. This all was a part of a new campaign ad released yesterday. This is all according to Politico. So a couple things I want to clarify as well, because Tom, I don't know if you've been on it a little while. We got a lot more people in the live chat here. So Tom, you are our lobbyist, Catholic Vote's lobbyist on the Hill, just for people to know. So you talk to these guys.
This is the face of Catholic Vote,
right? As it comes to DC,
pray for us.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I've gotten a little bit of buzz in the chat of like what people want to hear from. So one, there's been a lot of polls coming out very favorable to Kamala Harris, saying that she's up a couple points, this kind of sugar rush that they've been getting. So one, people want to know about the legitimacy of said polls. So Josh and Tom, I would like your two perspective on that. And then from my perspective, just what I've been observing and some people in the chat as well, it seems like Trump has been kind of struggling to pivot to a Kamala Harris campaign that has been just taking his ideas, flip-flopping, falling into pitfalls of personal attacks, this kind of thing. I've heard the name Chris LaCivita thrown around a little bit, and I don't think everyone knows exactly who that is. So let's just start with the first one. In terms of polling numbers, do you guys think these are really legitimate polls that people should care about?
I think you always, personally, I don't put a lot of stock into polls, but politicians do, and they can be used to influence public opinion.
Right.
So I do think we need to take them seriously. And it goes into the other that it does seem that Donald Trump has been sitting it out. And I don't know if it was, I don't know Chris LaCivita, or he's one of the few people I don't talk to on the campaign. I didn't really have a relationship with him beforehand that. But it's Trump at the head, and they're allowing the media and the Democrats to define who Kamala Harris is and define who Tim Walz is. And to me, that's just political negligence. So they should have those ads out there right now. They should have something flashy for the Democratic convention. Because right now, everybody, all you see is the ads from the Harris-Walz campaign. You're not really seeing anything from the Trump-Vance campaign, other than standout interviews from the vice presidential candidate.
Yep.
Well, I'll say this about the polls. I mean, obviously, we're talking 3 weeks of the media giving a sugar high on the Kamala campaign, and I've noticed I'm watching the polls. I mean, Rasmussen's about the only poll in the field that got since if you look at Real Clear Politics, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 polls that went into the month of August, and Rasmussen's the only one that went as late as the 7th. So there's none of these other ones. CNBC, NPR, Survey USA, Morning Consult is the worst poll of them all. CBS News, they all were going till about the August 2nd or August 4th. So there's literally nothing. There's no poll that's been released that has shown anything from, August 5th onward, with the exception of Rasmussen, which showed Trump up by 5. So they're all in the field in the immediate aftermath of the, like the pinnacle of the sugar high, like July, 30th to August 2nd or whatever. But there hasn't been anything since then. So it's like, well, what, are you guys not in the field? What is going on? Why aren't you doing another poll? Is it because the polls don't look good? Are you going to sit and wait and let Kamala Harris have this like 1 point lead going into the polls? And you look at the numbers on it, I think they're close to accurate. There maybe have, I would think it's got like a +2 advantage to Harris. In other words, I think they're sampling a little bit more Democrats than normal. But I'm just going to take them at face value and just remind people that if you look at the average of polls, it's basically effectively a tie, with Harris having a 0.5 point lead. Okay. If we consider the polls to be accurate, just remember this. 4 years ago, Biden was leading these same types of polls on the same day, 7.5 points. So that means Trump is doing 8 points better than he was 4 years ago. Okay. So just something to keep in context. Now, with regards to Trump kind of laying low, I feel like it's not the dumbest idea in the world. I mean, they actually have been spending, in the immediate 2 weeks after she was announced, they were hammering the airwaves in Pennsylvania and other states. So they might have taken a little bit of a cooling break right now because, next week is the Democratic convention and they don't want to, like run into that buzzsaw, let her have her little bounce, and then come back and hit her hard again as we do the run up to the next debate. So I think I just kind of feel the reason why we mentioned Chris LaCivita, that's one of the co-chairs of the Trump campaign. He was, I don't know, engaged in a little sort of Trump-esque braggadocio the other day when he's like, oh yeah, we can win New Jersey. You know what, buddy? Just worry about Pennsylvania, okay?
And to push back a little, Josh, early voting is starting. If it hasn't already in some states, it's starting soon. So I don't really think this is a sit back and wait and see type of election, because it's not only the hundreds of millions that the Harris-Walz campaign is going to be spending, it's the media and everybody else who are so far into this campaign that they should be paid directly by the campaign. They shouldn't be paid by MSNBC or Washington Post. They should be paid by the Harris-Walz committee.
Well,
Yeah.
I do think that Republicans, have to get the message that you need to fight back, and you need to keep organizing. You need to keep knocking on doors. You need to, call your friends, text them, get them registered to vote. By all means, you should always run like you're 10 points behind anyway. But I'm just saying that you've had 3 weeks of this media adulation tour, and yet we haven't had any polls come out
Speaking of,
except for Rasmus in the last 4 or 5 days. Yeah, this is crazy.
4 hours ago, the reintroduction
the Time
of Kamala
magazine
Harris.
cover,
Time magazine cover is like
artistic rendering, like she's
She almost looks Indian on that cover.
Uh-oh.
Not that I'm okay with that.
Don't bring that up.
I'm okay with she's that or she's African American, whatever she is. She just can't seem to decide.
Well, Time magazine, paid a muralist to come up with this glowing picture of her. Yeah, it's really unbelievable to see a lot of the press bend over backwards. I mean, I even myself saw an AP article because one of the most potent attacks from the Trump side is she's not doing any interviews. She hasn't done interviews for over 20 days. JD Vance is going on hostile outlets every day almost. And so you get something like this. AP, meet the press. Hold that thought. The candidate sit-down interview ain't what it used to be.
Oh, my goodness.
Just all of a sudden, the press decided it's no longer important to do interviews with the press. It's
when the press wants to interview somebody, usually a Republican, because they want to attack them with these questions or whatever, then they start saying that if they ignore the press, you're basically violating the Constitution. It's like, look,
right.
You're running for office. You have no obligation to speak to a candidate. That's absolutely true. She doesn't. But guess what? We as voters have a right to demand our leaders do that. And if they don't, we can vote for the other person, because you're not going to stand up. I mean, this is the hardest job in the world. You're leader of the free world. Like, you should be able to take some tough questions from reporters. And if you can't, then, maybe you should go work somewhere else.
Yeah, but isn't this just a big show of hypocrisy from the supposed truth to power journalists? Like, shouldn't these journalists really be ashamed of themselves? It's embarrassing almost. You claim to be the guardians of democracy, right?
These media guys hate Trump is because he has as little shame as they do. He just doesn't care.
Remember when Trump was like kicking people out of his press conferences, or he'd just say to their face, "You're terrible, fake news," and they literally were talking about this being the end of democracy. A president who doesn't talk nice to the press, yada, yada, yada. And now you're getting this where the press itself is saying, talking to us isn't that important anymore. I don't know. It just ain't what it used to be. Just so shameless. And obvious.
They're out there campaigning for the candidate anyway. So, what's the point?
No, but let's check in on JD, because Tom made a good point. I did see a lot of interviews from the news circuit here. I don't know. Is that your dog, Tom?
Yeah, sorry about that.
All good. Maybe you can get someone on it. Here we go.
I guess we got an official mascot for the
is whatever she says she is. But I believe, importantly, that President Trump is right that she's a chameleon. She pretends to be one thing in front of one audience. She pretends to be something different in front of another audience. Look, Dana, she's not running a political campaign. She's running a movie. She only speaks to voters behind a teleprompter. Everything is scripted. She doesn't have her policy positions out there. She hasn't answered why she wanted to ban fracking, but now she doesn't. She wanted to fund police, but now she doesn't. She wanted to open the border, but now she doesn't. She should have to answer for why she presents a different set of policies to one audience and a different set of policies to another audience. And I think that's what President Trump is getting at. This is a fundamentally fake person. She's different depending on who she's in front of. I believe.
And the reporter's like, I got to get to the next question. This is terrible for me.
Highly encourage you to go listen to the entire interview, too, because she was extremely hostile. And one thing that I've noticed about JD, he uses their names. He seems very calm, but he's not playing into the game. So it's becoming more and more obvious to me why he was chosen by Trump. And it's kind of encouraging to see basically all the best parts of what Trump represents and what I believe in are possible to achieve through someone who's highly intelligent, can speak very well, and is not going to kowtow to, traps, games, things like that. And I've been seeing a lot of flashes of that in JD Vance.
Bait either.
I'm excited about that. I really think, hopefully this election goes well, but in the future, it seems like the future of that kind of movement that I believe in is in good hands. Wow, I just stumped the gallery on that.
No, man, I agree with you.
Sweet. Okay, so we got some more stuff to get to today. We'll see how that passes along. I also did see that Trump campaign saying they got hacked by Iran. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah, and then also that the Trump plane had a strange mechanical error that forced him to land somewhere else.
Yeah, really crazy. They're saying
it's just, the kind of stuff. I mean, is it that the CIA is really out to get this guy or what? I don't know.
Yeah, Microsoft is saying that Iranian hackers broke into the account of a high-ranking official of the U.S. presidential campaign in June of 2024. So they sent to Politico emails with dossiers on J.D. Vance or other people that they vetted. They haven't published it as of now, but I wouldn't bet money that that doesn't see the light of day if they get that. And then speaking of splashy things, too, Tommy talked about it. Donald Trump's coming back to Twitter. The big return to Twitter. Talk about where he made most of his
I heard that was
bread.
a rumor. So that's happening.
I think that's happening tonight. Yeah.
I hope Joe Rogan is next. Just because he just I don't watch either, but he just flourishes in these environments, and it gives the media something to talk about. It's flashy stuff like that gets Kamala out of the news.
Yeah.
And in Trump's case, any news right now is good news.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
I say that.
Yeah. So,
you're very worried, though, Motuski. You're very worried.
All right. So I have two more topics, and we're going to be on top of that. I'll be watching that on Twitter. But the next topic.
So when is that? That's tonight, you're saying?
That's tonight, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So another topic, we have the 8th Circuit has upheld the court order we obtained to block the illegal Biden-Harris $500 billion student loan cancellation scheme. It's a massive win for every American who won't be saddled with someone else's Ivy League debt. Surprise? Thoughts? College debt in general?
College debt.
You still paying it off, Josh?
This is one of those things where like the left automatically assumes that they've got the entire population, a super majority of people behind them getting rid of the college debt stuff. And they don't realize that there's a lot of pushback because a lot of people who did go through and climb their way and pay their college debt don't like this idea that it just gets, eviscerated by a snap of a finger by someone trying to run for office. And so, it's not the great boon that I thought it, but I don't even know if they think that's ever going to happen. I think the Democrats are kind of okay with the courts kind of snapping it back. So then they have another election cycle. They can go back and try to do it again. And they never have to, pay the political price for it.
And to them, the courts are the enemy. The Supreme Court's the enemy anyway. They think they're going to be able to run against it. So it's not the Supreme Court. It's Donald Trump's court. So yeah, they probably welcome the snapback, and I'm sure they're messaging to all those college that this is why you need to elect us.
Yeah.
See, but I would like to see Republicans push for some sort of proposal, though. Like tax endowments and use that money, to pay down college debts or to offer. Like come up with a fund that allows the college kids to have their debt at reduced levels or something like that, reduced percentage or something like that. Like do something where it's like you make the universities themselves feel the pinch for these large loans because they're like, colleges are like, I'm not speaking for every college, of course, but the colleges that, the system, the way it is right now, they get paid if you go there for 2.5 years and don't get a diploma. Yeah. Right.
Right.
So like they always mention, their acceptance rate. Oh, we're very prestigious. We only allow, 24% in. But I actually like to know how many you actually graduate. That's what I kind of look at when I talk to my kids. Like, okay, do people actually graduate with a degree? Do they actually learn something? That's the number one thing. Do they learn something? And then number two, do they have any ability, after that to try to find some sort of, meaningful employment, obviously. So it's not just, 4 years of a joyride or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, I'd love to see Republicans, push back at this and offer an actual alternative and say, yeah, okay, let's do this right. Let's pay for it.
Yeah, not to brag being the closest one to my college graduation date in this group. I just think the whole system is super predatory, starting with the concept of federal loans to begin with is ridiculous to me because then colleges just increase their costs by that much and it just goes straight into their pockets. So it's like, well, who are we helping to begin with? And then the fact that colleges, if you look at what parts of staff have been rising, it's not been professors. It's been administrative workers. It's been costs to build fancy dorms, pools, those kind of things. And you're just saddling these kids with predatory debt that they can't pay back. In a game, in order to get a good job, quote unquote, you need a college degree. So it's like, well, what are we doing here? It's just a ridiculous cartel that the government's playing the games
and that the
in.
incentives are all wrong. So like the cheap money, cheap loans make it so that, they can bring the cost up. And then it's just colleges then are like, I just need to get this kid to say a yes. And so when Tom and I went to college back in the dinosaur era, it was nice. I mean, the campuses look nice or whatever, but like I saw some of the videos, and now I've started to see some of the schools, and the way they try to attract kids, and like everything is so posh and nice and everything. It's like, where are you getting this money? Oh, I know. It's just because you could milk the taxpayer because you can raise the rate so much and people are just going to get the loans for it and everything. If you look at the different markets, why certain things have become more expensive, college education, healthcare, those two are some of the biggest ones. And what are the drivers of that? Like, it's because massive government intervention. Anytime you have, like when you have something that's a direct cost, like if something happens to my sink, I call the plumber comes, he fixes it. I pay him, that's it. Okay. But when it comes to healthcare, people we sort of socialize the costs in a sense. So it's like, should I get this test or not? Like, well, I mean, my insurance is going to pay for it. So I don't have to make an economic decision whether I want to make it. Now there's pros to that and there's also cons. And so college, healthcare, those kind of things, you're sort of passing the buck of the cost. And the kids don't realize that as 18-year-olds, oh gosh, I'm going to be paying for this when I'm 23, 24, 25. I paid so much in college debt myself. I made sure my kids understand I will help you, but only if you get a job this summer and only if you have a job during the school year, because it makes you work harder. You plan your time and it's not just a playland. And also you're going to be thanking me 5 years from now because you're not going to be swimming in debt.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was telling people I just paid off my loans, and I'm like, it took me back to jobs I picked up when I was 16, being an RA in college. My dad helped me out a little bit freshman year, all the loans, everything like that. It took me till now, 26, to just pay off, and I had a pretty favorable situation. So I just think that the philosophy of the government solving a problem that they created to benefit the wealthiest among us, or people that have just like, if someone was telling me they had a teacher, a professor who had like 3 degrees and had $800,000 in student debt. Now, what could possibly be the rationalization to take on that much debt in a field that is not going to pay? Like, again, the incentive structures are just so off. So the solution to me is not, let's forgive all the loans of people who took on these degrees. It's, we need to just change the structure here. But I guess that's not politically as useful.
Change some of that though, Tom, right? With the McCluskey, with the recent 2-3 years ago, I didn't like all the changes that they made on the college loan thing, but I do think they made some significant caps on the amount of debt that you could take per year or whatever. And so I think we're starting to fix some of the more egregious, like mountains of debt, like the $800,000. I think is going to be less likely now, if I'm not mistaken, with the way they changed the bill.
But the problem is still there, is like Tom pointed out, that and as you were pointing out too, because it's also the smaller things like housing or even automobiles. The reason they're so expensive right now is because the federal government has gotten involved, and that was one of the strengths of the first Trump administration, was getting rid of a lot of those regulations that allowed regular people to buy things, to be consumers. On the college front, we also have to understand that college isn't for everybody. And if the government is paying for it, and that's when you get people doing these gender studies type things, or DEI scholarships or something like that aren't going to help you in the real world. So there's only so much the federal government can do. I think getting out of the loan game would certainly be one of that. And I think if they did that and started holding the colleges responsible, you would start hopefully seeing a streamlining too of courses that and degrees of things that are actual value to society,
Right.
as opposed to ones that are just of value to.
Well, and I think actually in many ways Catholics are leading the way on this because, I know we here at the LOOPCast interviewed the guy with the Harmel Academy in Grand Rapids, Catholic
Sweet dude.
school. It's a trade school. You can work there. You take classes, but then you do an apprentice and you can graduate there with very little debt at all in some cases. And frankly, the Franciscan University jumped on this bandwagon. They've got the College of St. Joseph that's opening this fall. And so they're also going to do that. You can do an apprentice. You want to be a plumber, electrician, carpenter, whatever. You can go there to the College of St. Joseph the Worker at Franciscan, and you basically graduate after 4 years, no debt, and you've got a skilled trade that you can apply for the rest of your life. And now there's a third one. They just opened up. It's going to be next a year from now, fall of 2025, San Damiano College of the Trades in Springfield, Illinois. So in many ways, Catholics are leading the way. There's a lot of men out there that they have a different level of knowledge. I'm the keyboard warrior, but there's a lot of people who have the knowledge of the trades. And we need to start to understand that. Like Mike Rowe has been a champion on this one for so many years. Like this idea in the 70s and the 80s, I felt this. I don't know if you did, McCluskey. They'd say like, no, you got to use your mind. Think harder, not smarter. Or think smarter, not harder. And they definitely, there were many schools were getting rid of shop class and all this other kind of stuff. And there's a lot of men who felt like, well, then if, what is there for me to do on this? And that was really devalued for many years. And I think we're starting to see the resurgence. And I think that's a good thing.
Wasn't that with
home ec?
That was with the dawn of federal loans is when that started happening, because all of a sudden the government started treating college education as a public good. I can't remember what president made that a big part of their thing. Someone can fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's when
George came out like in.
Was it Bush?
The GI Bill goes back to.
Not the GI Bill.
Oh,
one of the worst education
Obama
presidents was George W. One of the worst education presidents was George W. Bush. Under him, the Department of Education about tripled.
Ugh.
Yeah, he's George W. Bush. He did maybe one or two things right, and the rest he got wrong.
They actually offered me. I was offered a job at the Department of Education in like 2002, and I laughed because I'd been writing papers about how to get rid of the Department of Education. And they're like, "You do understand? I would try to dismantle you from the inside." And they're like, "Oh yeah, that's what we want. That's what we want."
Water under the bridge.
I'm so glad I didn't take that job.
I saw another clip from a radio station in Chicago. Shout out. I saw a lot of people in the chat from Chicago, and I have some ties there as well. But the head of the Chicago's teacher union was on a popular radio program, and the host asked her why she should. What'd you say?
Prison talk?
Not prison talk, no. Not prison talk, but the host was asking her why she believed that the teachers union deserved more money after all testing results are down for like people way below reading level, not at math level, all these kids in Chicago public schools. And she said that standardized testing was created by white supremacists and is so they need to change the whole system because the system was built by people that hated them, including standardized tests. So you can't judge performance based on outcomes, which is a wild thing to say. And she even had a couple people call in basically like, I'm a doctor, I'm black, like I want my kids to perform. I don't. It was almost like they couldn't believe what they had just heard as well. And you're like, yeah, really, some things don't surprise you when it comes to education organizations, why performance is down. If you have that kind of, and plus like, even just to say that,
if things aren't going well, they need more. They say we're underfunded, so give us more money. And then if schools are doing great, they're like, hey, we need a bonus. But so either way, they need more money. Another
thing too is like, okay, if you go to the systemic racism thing, you're the head of the Chicago Teachers Union. Isn't that the most powerful position there is? Like that kind of doesn't that just self defeat everything you're saying? How down you are. Everyone in charge of Chicago public schools is African American. I don't know. We got to move on, though. Before we get into the Twilight Zone, first off, drop a like on this episode. I see a lot of new people in the live chat. Thank you guys for joining. And also reviews, Spotify, Apple Podcasts help us out a ton. Thank you guys for being here. So I have an update on the Venezuela election. I did a lot of research. So if you guys give me a few minutes to lay this down, I cannot believe what I'm witnessing, but I really think we potentially could have similar issues. So I'm going to go to my screen here. So Venezuela, quick refresher. So Maduro is currently the socialist leader as of now in Venezuela. And he is a protege of Hugo Chavez. And he opened the first free democratic election because the United States was threatening embargo. So this was a couple of years ago. They threatened this. So they're like, okay, we'll do an open election. He faced a very strong opposition candidate in Gonzalez Urrutia. And so the results came in, and the exit polling suggested a landslide win for the opposition, Gonzalez. And strangely, polling sites shut down. And all of a sudden, Maduro came out and said, no, actually, I won 51.95%. And you lost 43.18%. However, every other party, because there was like 10 different parties running, the other 8 parties got exactly 4.06% of the vote, which by all these accounts, statistically impossible. A lot of people said the argument is when socialists do stuff like this, they're not doing it to make it seem close. They're doing it to basically prove to you how much power they have. They're making fun of you, basically, for a ridiculous outcome like this. So the opposition party released a database, and according to their data, they won 67%, and Maduro only got 30%. So all this data can actually be downloaded, which I thought was crazy. You can actually go to the website right now that they provided and download all the election data. They did this so that independent fact checkers from all over the world can verify this. And I was trying to think, like, how did the opposition get these records and database up so quickly? How'd they get it in the first place? Because Venezuela has their own official, CNE, I think it's called. They're in charge of elections, which of course they're run by socialists. So thousands of volunteers participated in the electoral process in July 28th. And by instruction, they were told to wait at the polling sites until polls closed. And so they could obtain a copy of printed records from each polling site. These were then transferred to a safe place, accompanied by members of the opposition party who sought to guarantee the safety of these witnesses. So because they were able to get the physical copies, they were able to upload it. And then now we have this database. So all these people came in from all over the world, the Associated Press, Washington Post, New York Times, some Hispanic ones, El País. We have nearly 24,000 images of ballot papers have been released by the opposition, representing results from 79% of the voting machines. Each coded sheet of votes counts in QR codes, which the AP decoded and analyzed programmatically, resulting in tabulation of 10.26 million votes. So according to these calculations, the opposition received 6.89 million votes. This is Gonzalez, and Maduro only obtained 3.13 million. So basically now, according to what we know, everyone is saying that the opposition won. Outside of the country, the opposition party is saying this, except for Maduro, who actually took action to a criminal investigation against the opposition candidate, Gonzalez, for the alleged commission of the crimes of usurpation of functions, dissemination of false information to cause anxiety, instigation to disobedience of the laws, instigation to insurrection, criminal association, and conspiracy. So again, the Supreme Court of Justice, the body that answers the ruling party, has given the CNE 3 days to present the votes because the election commission in charge of this election has not presented data to back their claims that Maduro won the election. And so now we have a case where there's a judicial summons for the 10 presidential candidates, including Maduro and Gonzalez. Again, this is a summon to the socialists, so it's not going to go well. And the opposition candidate is not going to show up because I'm scared for my life, basically. And interestingly, Maduro also blocked Twitter in the country for 10 days, claiming that Elon Musk is somehow inciting violence, this and that. What we know to be the truth is we are getting videos from the ground in Venezuela of what happened during the elections, of what's really going on. And he just shut it down because when you're a socialist and you have the kind of power to do that, you can do that in the country, trying to move people away from WhatsApp. Funny enough, he was asking members of his cabinet to follow him on Twitter. He said, "Who among you does not follow my accounts? You are embarrassed to raise your hand, right? All of you. And why don't you like me? Why don't you like or retweet? Why? That doesn't cost anything. It's a second. Boom." So yeah, we're going to see what goes down there. But I was just fascinated that the world's involved now. It seems like everyone is saying this guy should give up power. I don't know if he will. And I don't know if the U.S. will be a part of strong arming him into doing so. We love interfering in foreign democracy, foreign countries or whatever. Seemingly, it seems like the United States is on the side of the opposition. But yeah, strange election stuff.
You know, Chavez and Maduro could be considered socialists before they come to power, but once they're in power, they're called communists. That's the word you need to use, because you can use your ballots to put a socialist into power, but then once they're in power, they become a communist, and you try to get them out of power with ballots, and ballots don't sometimes work. Sometimes you need bullets. So I wouldn't be surprised if this does come to violence, because this is an absolute sham. And you're right that every other tiny opposition party got the exact same percentage. Not that it was like 3%, it was like 4.09 or whatever it was.
Something, yeah.
I mean, that's just a total middle finger. It's like, yeah, we know we're lying through our teeth and we don't care. It's like, good golly.
And then not providing your data. They provided data actually the first time to back their first calculation, but it had a ton of statistical problems. They didn't review enough of the vote, yada, yada, yada. So they put up their second bulletin like, no, we fact checked. This is actually the results, but then they didn't post new data to show that it backs a new vote. So just socialists being socialists.
Almost like they're lying.
Yeah. So crazy.
And they more turn into dictators than communists, maybe communistic dictators.
Right. But,
and let's also
communism is a socialist dictatorship. That's what it is.
It's the Harris-Biden administration love the policies of the current person in charge. They loved Hugo Chavez. You had Sean Penn going down there. So they might be saying they're for the opposition, but you should bet that there would be money going behind the scenes.
I think Biden put out a tweet for like Hugo Chavez Day on the official account, I'm pretty sure.
Wait, what are you saying now?
So President Biden, I think he put out like a Hugo Chavez Day tweet saying that he was a great man and he brought all these things to Venezuela.
You're sure that wasn't Cesar Chavez?
Yeah, he did. He proclaimed Cesar Chavez Day back on March 31st. That's a totally
maybe it was Cesar
person.
Romero, the former Joker from the Batman TV series in 1960.
Yeah, someone was giving you a shout out, Sarah, for your timeline on Venezuela that we did that past episode. Honestly, I couldn't believe it myself, but just 20 years, how quickly you can descend into a place where you have a regime just putting out election results with no data to back it, completely against the will of the people.
That's why I look at this presidential election in our own country as, are we going to get the best candidate possible ever? No, we are fighting to fight another day.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm not making any complaints about this. I'm not making any bones about it. Like, I know the threat we face. This is Kamala Harris is just as communist, just as radically socialist as Bernie Sanders. But she's a lot more presentable than Bernie. Bernie looks like a freakazoid. You know, people are like, well, this guy seems weird, and he screams and yells, and she just kind of does a nervous cackle, but she doesn't scare the suburbanites quite like she should.
And even though she's a former assistant district attorney, I'd swear she put more conservatives in jail than criminals. And she will continue to do that if she got elected.
Yeah, I went after our boy Daleiden. Another interesting thing on that front, too. So you go over to UK and France with their hate speech laws. So they're threatening to throw people in jail over tweets, over Facebook posts. I mean, apparently that boxer from Algeria that's like intersex is now countersuing, according to France's hate speech laws, to basically punish people with jail time. I think up to 2 years of jail time for like hateful speech online against her. Crazy, man. It's like this stuff is real. It's like we focus on domestic policy a lot, the domestic politics a lot, because when America coughs, you know, the rest of the world gets sick. But looking at what's going on around the world, it's like these are real phenomenons that are happening that we warn about, but you see them actually in practicing around. You just got to look around.
Maybe we shouldn't have liberated Iraq. Maybe we should liberate the United Kingdom. Make them our colony now. Just flip it around. Let's go. Come on, guys. Man. That'd be fun.
Heads up. Episode's going to go a little bit long. Sorry, I had to get into Venezuela stuff there. But we move into the Twilight Zone now. Josh, you're up first.
I mean, this to me I'm not even offended by this. This is so predictable. It actually kind of made me laugh. So the National Communist, Catholic reporter. I get that mixed up all the time. My bad. Rebecca Bratton Weiss is just a total moonbat, used to teach at Franciscan University, and then she let out all her crazy, wacky ideas. And
she was fired for a reason.
Dude, we're totally firing you. You're crazy.
Yeah.
She writes an article, of course. I love this headline. As Olympics close, did Christians learn anything from the opening ceremonies? Yeah, we learned that, you know, the main culture is giving us a total middle finger. That's what we learned, you idiot. She said she completely defended, though, the Olympics blasphemy. She compared the art that was displayed there to piss Christ in a good way. Like, it's a healthy impotence for dialogue. She said, Christian rage at drag queens representing a gospel scene indicates that many have forgotten what it means to live that gospel in a diverse and rapidly changing world. Get the message, guys. People hate you, and you should love that fact. It's a new world. It's a diverse world. Absolutely bonkers. I mean, I'm laughing at it. Like, okay, girl, sure. We should celebrate when people insult us. This is awesome, you know.
Kudos to Franciscan University for removing her from the faculty.
Absolutely, best thing they've done in 20 years.
Josh,
and graduate my wife and a few other people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying it's number one.
Wait, you got fired, or your wife got fired from Franciscan?
No, she graduated. She graduated.
Okay. The way you said that. Okay. Josh, and I had to bring this up because of your reaction last time to mentioning David French. Did you catch his latest op-ed?
Oh, yes, I did.
To save conservatism from itself.
Yeah, apparently we have to commit suicide. This is, everyone was joking about this weeks ago because they knew this was going to happen. Like, when is David French going to write the quote conservative case for voting for Kamala Harris? And he did. He did not disappoint. I mean, he did disappoint, but he didn't disappoint, if you know what I'm saying. We knew he'd do it. We expected him to do it. And he, again, gets paid by the New York Times to attack Christian conservatives, and he does it again. So are we shocked? No. Is it? It's like it's annoying. It's more annoying than anything else. And a further reminder that this guy is totally bought and paid for.
Well, he it's like a meme at this point. Like, I saw another one. It's like people will make fake David French articles, and it's to save my marriage, I committed adultery.
Yeah, I mean, there should be a David French story pitch bot on Twitter that just cranking out different ideas.
There is. I've seen some of the funniest, like, the blessing of liberty. But okay, Twilight Zone, Tom, what you got?
Well, I sent a link. I'd like to give my time to President Trump if he is back on Twitter. So do we have that link? Can we put the new ad up?
Where'd you send this?
Into the Loopcast.
Yeah, let me grab it. Oh, he's back?
Narrated by Ronald Reagan.
Let me get it.
What is this?
What?
He has a video up on Twitter.
Here we go.
Trump has left the building.
Over. We can now project the winner of the presidential race. Donald Trump wins the presidency. What started off as unlikely, impossible, is now reality.
I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down.
We have a president who actually fulfilled the promises he made during the campaign, securing the border to foreign policy.
He now has a record as president that's pretty damn impressive.
Breaking news out of Palm Beach,
The FBI has executed an unprecedented search warrant at President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. The former president has both sides of the political aisle up in arms.
It is a dangerous and unstable moment in American history.
The Justice Department has just indicted former President Donald Trump.
For 7 years, they hated him, they targeted him, they hunted.
First ad back.
But first time back, and I'm just glad he's back on Twitter because any of the great stuff he would put on Truth and some of the cringy stuff he'd put on Truth, I'd always have to rely on other people to see it. Now I could get my unfiltered Donald Trump back.
Yeah, you don't have to retruth
as much as I lost my hair during his first administration, like, oh no, what is he tweeting today? I miss it. I have got to say I've missed it.
Oh man, we could do a whole episode
having it back.
We could do a whole episode on best Trump tweets. I also saw, because Kamala Harris copied him on the no tax on tips thing. Someone's like, okay, the copying is going too far, and they made a fake Kamala tweet using all caps, like Trump uses all caps on Twitter. I was dying at that. Welcome back, President Trump, for the memes. Okay, so mine. All right, now first off, I have to deal with a stupid copyright problem because one of the episodes I did, all I wanted to show was Scotty Scheffler crying during the anthem, and it like took the whole episode down, which was nuts. So we're going to take a risk here. I think I found a way around it. Now, many of you may have seen this viral sensation out of Australia. We have breakdancing. Tom, did you ever breakdance? I could see that for you.
I did not.
Okay, no breakdancing for Tom. So here is Australia's B-girl, as they call them, Rachel Gunn, a.k.a. Ray Gunn. Many were saying she scored 0 points on this performance. And I've never seen something go so viral.
Where is this from? What is this from?
This is the Olympics. Breakdancing is an Olympic sport.
Isn't she like a gender studies professor or something?
So I got to get into it. So all her moves are original. She has a PhD in breakdancing and dance culture. So she represented Australia, and I almost felt bad. I wanted to feel bad for a second because like it was so bad that you're just like, you feel a little bad for her, but she's so unaware. And then I dug in a little bit deeper of like what she had going on. So first off, we have like the first, this was the first time Olympics had breakdancing, and she scored 0 points in this. It was really bad. Everyone made fun of it. They will not have breakdancing in 2028.
Thank you.
It could have been a performance so bad that it actually eliminated an entire category from the Olympics.
That would be a good thing then.
Which would be unbelievable. Now, I don't know who allowed this woman to get to this stage where this happened, but if you dig a little bit into her past, she has this PhD, and in her research papers, she has this quote. We argue that breaking is what they call breakdancing. Breaking's institutionalization via the Olympics will place breaking more firmly within this sporting nation's hegemonic settler colonial structures that rely upon racialized and gendered hierarchies. Okay, so I'm feeling a little bit less bad for her at this point. And then
what a word vomit.
And then she deconstructs breakdancing culture to challenge the fact that she doesn't practice very much and questions why she's excluded from the art form's hierarchy of respect. So, yeah, she got into LGBTQ plus and disability. Here's a line: from the crews that are like boys clubs to the male gatekeepers of knowledge to the B-girls being hit on and women lost to history. Rachel's work has looked at the problems with the meritocratic model, and more work is needed on issues to do with LGBTQ plus and disability. So from what I understand, she is the best that Australia has to offer in breakdancing. Her performance was so bad that it literally might remove it from the Olympics. And then also her coach came out and defended her, saying that the problem is sexism.
I just love the fact that they got rid of baseball and they put breakdancing in.
Yeah, I mean, breaking's pretty sick. I love the nicknames, though.
Can I announce it here that in 2028, the three of us are going to do male synchronized swimming? To finally eliminate that?
Actually, I will not make fun of that because that looks hard and takes talent. But I was looking at breakdancing, I was watching the performance, and I'm like, you know how...
From somebody who's never seen Electric Boogaloo 2, breakdancing can be very hard as well.
Well,
I did not have that on my bingo card.
You know the thing where people sit on their couch, I'm eating ice cream and I'm watching, I don't know, badminton or something. I'm like, oh man, he missed that one. Like I could have hit that one. This was the rare example where you look on the TV and you're like, I could do that. Correct. You actually could do what she did. She scored 0 points and she hit a move called the kangaroo where she went like this. And then said it represented the nation. So she's going to go back with her PhD to her teaching job, unfortunately. And it's crazy, too, seeing, like, actual breakdancing, like the athleticism. And, like, I'm sure it probably is very frustrating to someone who's like, oh, yeah, I really like breakdancing. I'm really good at it. And then this was put on stage, and now everyone just thinks of your entire existence.
I think people need to watch Boys in the Boat as a cleanser.
Sorry, what'd you say, Tom?
Would that be a time traveler from the 1980s, a breakdancer?
Well, yeah.
Is that still a thing?
Sorry, an element of the story that I missed as well was that she recognizes that breakdancing started in the 70s, I think late 70s, 80s in New York for like ghettoized communities, like black communities. And she actually said in a paper that she decolonized dance, so she can't recolonize it. People are accusing her of appropriation, but she's like, that's not possible.
It certainly didn't start at the 4-H club, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, did not start the 4-H club. That's for sure. So Rachel Gunn, you tried your best, a.k.a. Ray Gunn. They have sick nicknames, I have to say, though. Like, I would, that I'm down with, getting a cool nickname.
You know what I'd like to see as an Olympic sport?
What?
Like cornhole. Like, let's go. I love watching that on TV. That is fun.
Sign me up. Those guys are so good. Even if you
I'll just totally get into it, too.
No, the Ocho, like ESPN The Ocho, like random sports on that. Oh, darts.
I love it, dude.
Have you seen darts? Like when people hit 3 of the top, it's
Bullseye.
like 3 20s. It's like the little sliver that gives you a triple 20. Hit all 3 of those, crowd goes nuts. Darts are serious business in the UK. Anyway, went a little long today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for joining the Monday episode, Tom. Thanks for taking the time. I think we got Logan coming up next on Wednesday. So if you guys want to hear from Logan, hop in Wednesday. Monday, Wednesday, Friday here every time, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Leave us an email, loopcast@catholicvote.org. Champion Club, best way to help us out, catholicvote.org/champions. Thank you to everyone that supports us. It's the only way we're able to do this for you guys. Reviews, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And as always, pray for us. St. Thomas More, Our Lady of Guadalupe, St. Fidel.